What's up, guys? It's your boy LV, and yes, by the sound of my voice, you guys can probably tell we have recovered from our sickness. We spent Christmas sick, unfortunately, but I hope you guys all had a happy Christmas and a happy New Year's, and I hope you guys can all achieve your goals for 2026. But I wanted to bring you guys a ultimate rage tank guide, and I may do an updated one because if you guys do not know, they are dropping 2 loadouts in the near future for the update. It could come this Tuesday or might come the next Tuesday. I'm not sure, but they are going to be changing it to 2 loadouts. So when that does happen, I may have to do an updated rage loadout, but I wanted to make sure I put one out now so that people have an idea of what it is that you're supposed to do as a tank, because even if they do 2 loadouts as a tank, it shouldn't change that much the main concept of it all. Okay, but without further ado, let's hop right into the video, and I hope you guys all enjoy this. So let's get into it. First things first, we're going to talk about the gear and the mods. So for gear and the mods, obviously you're going to want tank gear, and then you're going to want the shield mod for your for your weapon, sorry. For your head mod, you're going to want the ultimate supercharge mods. You get supercharged back. For your neck, you're going to want, while not blocking, you get more defense. For back mod, if you're specifically a tank, you should use reduce cooldown for Eerie if you're specifically tanking, but since I also DPS, I use the Berserk cooldown one. But if you're only mainly focusing on tank, use accelerated Eerie, and that's going to make it where your immunity, which we'll talk about in a second, will come off cooldown faster. For your chest, you're going to want ultimate hardy mod, which you can get the ultimate mod either from the marketplace or through the broker. If you don't have the ultimate mod and you're not able to afford one for whatever reason, you can use the regular one out of your base generator mods, and it'll give you 5% health, which would be right here, hardy. But you definitely want to get the ultimate because you get 15 rather than 5. Your leg mod doesn't matter for as a tank, and your hand, you can use the regenerating shield, but that's not like super good. Heal yourself whenever you use a shield superpower. You can use that as well. But I use max damage because, again, I DPS. Now, you're going to want to use a breakout trinket. You're going to want to use your tank trinket, a cola, and then you can use your orbital, your pet, your supply drop, whatever you want in that last slot. Now, next thing I'm going to talk about once we got through that, and this is all the boring stuff, but this is for the people that don't know. I want to run through everything so people know exactly what the setup should be. Now, for tanking, you can get away with using hybrid, but I don't like to rely on my troll, so I just go super powered. I put 20 skill points into critical healing, and then I go straight into health and dominance. Now, you guys might ask, hey, what if I don't have 1,023 skill points like you do? How do I do my skill points? You're going to do super powered, 20 into critical healing, and then you're going to put 100 into health and then 100 into dominance. If you don't have enough for that, which everyone should, just go straight into health. If you have, go 100 into health and then put the rest into dominance. If you do have enough to go 100 and 100, then once you have the remaining amount of skill points, put it into health. And that's pretty much it. But the idea is to try to max out both of these traits. And then the rest of them I put into restoration. I put some into might and power, but it doesn't really matter. The main thing is maxing out these 2. Now, if you guys are, I explained it in the video, in another video, but if you guys are wondering why I say put 100 and 100, is because when you put 100 skill points into any trait, it maxes out the percentage. As you guys can see, it says 10% health and then 155,000 health. So when you get 100 skill points into any trait, it gives you 10%. After the 100 skill points, it just starts giving you the stat little by little, like by chunks. But if you put 100 skill points, it'll actually give you 10%, which is the biggest amount. So that's why you want 100 and 100 if you have lower skill points. Now, for allies, for the most important ally for tanking is Superman. And then I use Professor Zoom, something that a lot of you guys probably are unfamiliar with. So the reason why I use Professor Zoom is because every time I use a pull ability, it gives me supercharge. How much supercharge? It gives me 25 every 3 seconds. And then it gives me movement speed. In combat, 15%. Out of combat, 30%. So it makes me run way faster, which allows me to be able to group all the adds, as you guys will see in the gameplay, really well. So without further ado, Let me show you guys. Am I missing anything else before we go hop back into the gameplay? So John Constantine, you use him to buff yourself and the group with defense, might, and precision. And then Superman, you use him, your group breakout, so that way you give everybody a group shield, and then you also give immunity. So that's great. So that's why I use Superman and Professor Zoom. This is for AoE. I'm actually not even close to done. I'm missing a lot of stuff. Hold on, guys. Loadout, you're going to want Rangebringer, Severe Punishment, Eerie, Redirected Rage, Without Mercy, and Dreadful Blast. Now, this loadout is only if you're not running the ISIS setup. In the gameplay, you're going to see I use the ISIS setup, which is going to kind of change how the artifacts are. But if you're running this is like the most tankiest setup. Like, basically meaning this is like your highest survivability. Like, you're basically invincible when you have this setup, because your stats are going to be through the roof, you're not going to die, and you're like invincible pretty much. I don't really use this setup. I would only use this setup if I'm doing like really, really hard content where I feel like I really need this. But I feel like for me, this is overkill because I'm max CR, max augments, max SP. I don't really use this setup. But for you guys that may be lower CR, or you're new to tanking or something like that, you may need this setup. So I use Refractor. Every time I pull, it gives health depending on my dominance, which is great. Then I use Book, which Book gives me defense and dominance, which is going to increase the buff for the Refractor. And then it also gives me bonus incoming healing and restoration. So all that is going to help me as a tank. And then I use Manacles, which basically if I get hit with a big attack, if let's say I get hit by an attack for 3 million, instead of doing 3 million, it'll kind of split it into parts. And so that way I don't die. And then it also reduces the cooldowns of my shields and also resets it whenever the Unshakable triggers. So it's a really good art. And then Mystic is a really good art because it increases my defense and increases my healing received. And it also heals me. So it's a really good art, the Mystic art. And then Lazarus is basically like a second life. You're able to last proc, your skin turns green, but as long as you get healed up, you'll be fine. I usually like to pop a cola and a supply drop if I see my skin's glowing green. And then if you do die, you can pick yourself up by hitting square, or I don't know what it is on mouse and keyboard, but you could basically pick yourself up with Lazarus. And then the other thing you guys will notice is I'm using Chrono. These Chronos, you can get it out the broker or craft them at the R&D. These are basically intended so you can stun the ads. You'll see me using it in the content. It just stuns them, and then when they get up, you can use Dreadful Blast, and then use Chrono, and you kind of rotate. You see how it's like an infinite stun. So they never hit me, they never hit anyone in the group, and we call this a CC. You just continuously keep doing it, and then they continuously are getting knocked over, and that's pretty much it. Now, one of the tricks that I really want you guys to know is that one thing I do in the video, and I'll explain it when we're watching over the gameplay, but one of the things that I do is I'll target lock an enemy, and this is one of the really good tricks you can do. Really secret sauce to tanking. You target the enemy, and then you look away, or you run past them, and then you can still pull them. Even though I'm not looking at him, he's not even on my screen. Since I target locked him, I can still pull him. So you'll notice that in the content, I'll run past them and I'll still pull them even though I'm not looking at them. It's just a way to make it faster. So you're not sitting. You don't have to, like, let's say you want to pull this set. You don't have to like pull that and then turn around and then pull the other set. You can just run past them, target lock them, and then pull them, and then pull whatever set's in front of you, if that makes sense. So make sure you guys, if you didn't understand that, go back and rewatch it. But you can target lock and pull an ad even if he's not even in your visual sight if you got him target locked. But you have to target lock. On controller, you just press down L1 on the target. So that's it. What else? I'm trying to make sure. Oh, generator mods. I'm trying to make sure I cover everything for you guys. So generator mods, you're going to want health mods for your blue. 51.4s, which you can craft by getting the plan out of the vendor from the new content. And then for your yellow, you're going to want dominance. Boom, 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 boom. And then you're going to want auto breakout. This basically makes it where if you do get stunned, it can automatically break you out, which is really good. And then this one is the escape mod. When you use a group breakout, it heals you, which is really good as well. So you want to make sure you have these generator mods. And I think I covered it all from this side. Yeah. Now for the boss fight. Okay, so for the boss fight, Oh, I forgot to mention, if you're trying to do ISIS on hallways, which is what I do in the gameplay, let me go back to this armory. If you want to do ISIS on hallways, right, you're gonna swap out a few things. You're gonna put in ISIS instead of book. You're gonna put in soul cloak instead of mystic, and you're gonna run this art setup here: Lazarus, mystic, scrap, heart of ISIS, and refractor. Now, I am going to be making a video explaining like artifact tier list and what's the best artifacts for each video, for each role, I should say. So stay tuned for that. But essentially, this whole thing about this artifact thing is a lot of people use artifacts that are just not that good. Like Cersei Mask, in my opinion, is not a good art. Red Tornado, for me, it's not that good of an art. I have it wolf packed, but I don't think it's that good. I feel like manacles is unnecessary. If you are going to use manacles, it's more so for the boss fights more than it is for hallways. The main arts that are really good for tank is Mystic, because it gives you defense, gives you more healing received, and regenerates a small amount of health based on your restoration. And so like Mystic, I think it's a really good artifact, and it's really, really good. And then Lazarus is basically a second life, and so it's really, really good. But manacles is pretty good, and book is pretty good. The thing about book that you have to understand though is that book ticks away your health. Like it ticks it 10% of your health per second. So you have to make sure that you're aware of that. If you pop a shield if you have the shield in your loadout, it'll give you immunity to that damage for I believe it is 12 seconds. So you won't get hit by the damage, but you have to be really aware of that right there. So now, with that being said, I think the only other thing I would like to mention is if you guys have any pet that gives you health, like I have the Tombot, he gives 5% health. That's huge. But yeah, most of you guys won't have that unless you have like an OG account. Regards to the loadout, if you're running the ISIS setup, which I'm going to be making a full video explaining the ISIS artifact, so stay tuned for that. This is more of a buff setup. If you're running this setup, this would be the loadout. The allies would remain the same, and the arts, I already showed it, would be this setup for the arts. So this is for hallways. So the first setup is like the most tanky, like you're literally invincible type of tanky. You're fast, but you're also invincible, but you're not buffing the group with this setup. But it's still a really good setup. The other setup I just showed you with the ISIS, you're more of a buff tank, and you're still able to do everything effectively. And then we're going to quickly show over the boss, and then we're going to get into the gameplay to make this video not too long. So for the boss fight, the only thing you're really changing is you're putting an E-chain. Now you may be wondering, why are we doing that? E-chain cancels the rage crash the same way Dreadful Blast does, which is the whole reason why we have Dreadful Blast into the other loadout, because you have to cancel the rage crash from severe punishment. If you guys don't know how rage works, basically when you pop severe punishment, it heals the damage that you receive, but you have to cancel the rage crash. If you don't cancel it, all of the damage that you healed, it's going to do it all at once. So if you guys are ever rage tanking, you've been one-shotted and you don't know by what, it probably was that you rage crashed. You'll see like this big splash of blood on your body if you rage crash. So you have to make sure you time it right. It's usually at like 8 o'clock. Look at the move severe punishment right now. Think about it like a clock. It's usually like 8 o'clock, like right here, you cancel it. And by the way, you can do the combo. If you do the combo, whether it's on this one or whether it's on Dreadful Blast, it still counts as a cancel. So let's say you pop severe punishment and you ended up popping it a little bit too early. You know, you messed up, you popped it a little too early. You can do the combo and it'll still cancel the rage crash. That's another thing. I do highly suggest for you guys to either pop your immunity or your breakout trinket right before you're about to cancel, so that way you can't get stunned, because both of these things give you immunity. So I'm about to cancel, I use my breakout, and then I use my abilities just to make sure I don't get stunned. All right, so those are major tips, which we'll probably go over again in later in the video, so I make sure you guys don't forget. Now, another reason why I use E-Chain is because I use Batman Who Laughs. Batman Who Laughs, if you read the Toxic in Core, hitting an enemy below 30% health with a finisher arms your next finisher with a Toxin Bomb. That releases lowers the defense for the nearby enemies by 4 seconds for 10 seconds. 4% for 10 seconds. Now, I don't have this maxed out on this tune. I'm thinking about maxing it out. But basically what this does is when I use the finisher move, which is the E-Chain on Rage, this is considered a finisher. I can activate Batman Who Laughs, and then I can lower the defense of the bosses. By lowering the defense of the bosses, I will help the DPSs do more damage, which is going to get us through the content faster. So that is why I use E-Chain on boss fights. And also, E-Chain is a pull. So if there's ever, like, let's say there's an ad that comes out in a certain boss fight, I can use this to single-handedly pull that ad if I wanted to, which is another good thing about E-Chain. But that's pretty much why I use E-Chain on boss fights. Other than that, everything is pretty similar. The artifacts, I use Philosopher's Stone. Philosopher's Stone, you don't have to use it, but again, I just use it to buff the group. We didn't talk about this artifact yet, but this artifact, basically what it does is when I cast it, it's going to give everybody a damage buff, a health regeneration, and free power casting, so no one's going to run out of power. And then it increases the supply drop field size. So you can see it. You guys probably might have seen it in the game before, but I use this on boss fights to help buff the group as well. So as you guys can tell, my setup for tank is not only to be able to tank really well, but also to be able to buff the group so that way we can get through the content fast and efficiently and help them also be able to survive longer. Now, again, I will be making a full video on ISIS. I'm not really going to talk too much about it on this video, but basically what ISIS does, this S ability that you see on my loadout in the artifact temple, Heart of Isis, basically buffs the group with a bunch of stats, buffs me, and it just helps the group. All right, so stay tuned for the full video where I'll fully describe it and let you guys know everything that you need to know about it. But it is really good. I did wolf pack it because it's that good of an artifact. So if you guys want to, you guys can definitely buy it while the sale's still up, but it's definitely worth it. I would not tell you guys that it wasn't worth it unless I was sure about it. Now, before we get into the gameplay, I did want to let you guys know, now that we're talking about buy, I did just remember, I wanted to briefly show you guys that I do have a Bat Swarm, a Lasso, and a Blood of Blast Amazon. I will be making a video showing all of the iconics in the game right now, so you guys have an idea of what they all do. I don't think anyone has really done that, so I'm thinking about doing that, making a video that kind of shows all of them. A lot of players that are coming back into the game don't really understand these iconics, but I do have them. If anyone is interested in buying them, please contact me in the game or on Discord. My Discord is down in the description. I do sell it at a much more cheaper and affordable rate than other people do, so make sure you guys are contacting me to be able to get one. But again, I will be making a video talking about not only those iconics, but all of them. There is currently, I believe, 8 iconics in the game, 8 of them, and they're about to drop another 6 of them. So there's a lot of iconics that are being dropped recently into the game. So if you guys haven't been playing, you guys probably missed out on some of them. But I'll be making a full video on not only which ones are the best, but also which ones, really on how to get them as well. Without further ado, though, we're going to hop right into this gameplay. I know this has been a very long, talking and all that stuff, but we had to cover a lot of information. All right, so this is the part that a lot of people tend to struggle on, which is first boss, and this is BNE Blackest Night Plus. You want to pull Martian as soon as he gets up, and then you got to wait 1 or 2 seconds for Grundy, and then you got to pull him right away. Now, you want to distance yourself so that way you bait out the charge and the spin, as you guys just saw. Grundy charge and then Martian spin. You want to get this out as soon as possible so that way when the group comes, it doesn't go towards them. Once you do that, you want to basically face tank, and then you want to try to hold them as still as possible. Now, notice that Grundy tried to leap over towards the group, but I body blocked him. So you kind of want to position yourself that way, so that way you body block him and try to keep him as still as possible. The more still you keep him, the faster that it's going to be. The better you tank him, the better that people are going to burn them. So you see, this is Blackest Night Plus, and look at how fast they're burning them just because of the way we're tanking. And I'm obviously running with my league mates and stuff, so we got good burn as well. Now, the other thing is I did use that finisher. Let's switch over to the parking lot. Parking lot, you want to be quick. This is part of the reason why you want Professor Zoom, because Professor Zoom's going to help you be quick. You see how I run out quickly. I start grabbing all the ad sets, merge them together. I start the boss fight, and then I pull the remaining ads that are left, group them all up, and then pretty straightforward. The main thing you want to know for Superboy is you want to make sure you're facing away from the group, because he does Frost Breath, and Frost Breath can line of sight and kill people in the group. So that's very important. So here you're going to see I'm going to switch over to my buff ISIS setup. Now, one thing I do want to say about this ISIS setup is that you got to make sure that before you switch armories, you reset it to the S, because if you don't, and you swap armies, it's gonna bug out. So you basically got to reset it. But we're gonna talk about the whole ISIS thing in a whole separate video. But as you guys can see, we just face the beam away from the group. Make sure that the group doesn't get beamed. But there's a bunch of people that were meleeing, so they ended up still dying. And that's pretty much it. Pretty straightforward for second boss. So on this last boss is pretty simple. You basically just tank the boss. You got to make sure you keep them as far from the group as possible and put them away from where the people are putting the mist containers. And then that's pretty much it. Now I know that you guys, this is not the best example for gameplay because I'm obviously running with good DPSs, good healer, good troll. So shout out to everybody that's in this group for doing an amazing job. But basically, if you guys are wondering, you know, how you guys can play with players like this or perform like this, I am a big on the saying, your network is your net worth. I'm really big on that saying. And that basically just means that you are who you hang around. Your success is going to be who you hang around. And that goes for anything, even this game. So if you guys want to be a good tank, you want to be a good player, you got to hang around good players to be able to do that. So obviously these are steps to going about that. You know, if you're coming back to the game, as I made in my last video, talking about is it worth playing DC Universe, you want to make sure that you're, you know, acquiring a good account. You know, you guys can do that by contacting me down in the description. You acquire a good account, and then after that, you got to hang around people that are going to help you get better and hang around top-tier players. You know, I've helped a lot of people over the past couple weeks to help them get to the top level. So I hope to see more players reaching the end game. But that's pretty much it. That's pretty much the rundown on how to tank. It is kind of hard for me to make cover every little corner. Like, this is a pretty long video, and even then I'm still missing a few things. I know I am. So if you guys have any questions, please leave it down in the description. But there is definitely a lot to cover when it comes to tanking. Tanking is by far the hardest role, and my best advice for you guys, if you guys still struggle with tanking even after watching this video, is please contact me with any questions that you guys have. But not only that, make sure you guys are following me on Twitch, and make sure you guys are subscribing on YouTube, and just watch my gameplay and ask questions. And that is the best way that you guys will become one of the best tanks on DC Universe Online. But without further ado, I hope to see you guys in my next video, and I appreciate you guys for watching. If you guys have any videos you guys would like to see, any suggestions, any feedback, anything like that, let me know. And by the way, my league Eager is recruiting, so if you guys are interested in joining, you guys can always contact me for that as well.